November 10 is Indigenous Peoples Heroes Day. IP Heroes Day traces its roots in the martyrdom of the Ogoni Nine on November 10, 1995, when Indigenous Ogoni activists Ken Saro-Wiwa, Saturday Dobi, Nordu Iyawo, Daniel Gabuko, Paul Levira, Felix Nuate, Baribor Bera, Barinam Kiobol, and John Kapunen were executed by the Nigerian army for opposing the exploitation of Ogoni land by the Royal Dutch Shell Company and the local Nigerian Petroleum Company. They died for the indigenous Ogoni's rights in ancestral land versus resource exploitation, land inequality, and environment destruction. Their story is just one of the constellations of narratives from indigenous martyrs which continue to guide present-day struggles to fully enjoy one's right to self-determination. Ken Saro-Wiwa, an Ogoni indigenous rights activist from Nigeria. He led the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people against the destructive impact of the oil industry on the Ogoni ancestral lands, which was then monopolized by the Anglo-Dutch company Royal Dutch Shell Company. He spoke against the Nigerian military regime. In 1994, he was arrested by the Nigerian military and along with Saturday Dobi, Nordu Iyawo, Daniel Gabuko, Paul Levira, Felix Nuate, Baribor Bera, Barinam Kiobol, and John Kapunen was executed by hanging in 1995. Petra Macleing. Mother Petra lived an exemplary life, an icon to many activists, land defenders, and especially Filipino indigenous women. She was active in the defense of their ancestral land, taking on the biggest of enemies that dare exploit the rich resources of their ancestral domain. Even after the dictatorship, she was active in the Cordillera People's Alliance from its founding in 1984 up to the latter years of her life. She was a steady fixture in the mass movement in Cordillera. Mama Josefa, an indigenous Amangmi leader from Timika, West Papua. Having grown up in a community that was heavily mined and militarized, Mama Josefa organized her community to resist the exploitation and pollution of their lands and waters and the displacement of their people caused by the operations of U.S. multinational mining company Freeport-McMoRan. For this, she was arrested and tortured by Indonesia's state security forces. In 2001, she was awarded the Goldman Sachs Environmental Prize, and until today she continues to take part in human rights and environmental advocacies in West Papua. Amelia Rokotowiwuna, Fijian feminist activist who led the anti-nuclear movement against French nuclear tests in the Pacific. After several years of regular and collective efforts by Amelia and the organizations mobilized, they successfully expelled the French airline Union de Transport Aériens from Fiji. Amelia co-organized a protest against Chilean General Augusto Pinochet in 1980 and led a protest youth march against the Fiji military coup in 1987. She served as head of the Fiji Young Women's Christian Association and spoke for women's equal rights and human rights. Saomu, Karen indigenous leader who defended the Karen indigenous peoples and the rights of the Karen to their land, forests, and territories. Sawamu was also a dedicated peace advocate and active community leader of the Salween Peace Park. The Salween Peace Park is a conserved territory in the Salween River Basin and self-declared by the indigenous Karen through the Karen National Union, expressing their autonomy and self-determination. On April 5, 2018, Sawamu, as he was going home from a community meeting, was murdered in cold blood by the Tatmadaw, the military forces of Burma. Carmelita Perez, Chaorti local authority and one of the Chaorti Mayan women who participated in the peaceful anti-mining resistance camp in El Cariza, a village in Olopa, Chiquimula, Guatemala. Together with other women, they cared for the indigenous community, peacefully resisting all day and night at the Cantera Los Manantiales mine entrance. The community resisted the mining company's violation of the right to free, informed, and prior consultation and the environmental destruction and endangerment of health it brought to the community. On November 2019, their struggle led to victory as the Supreme Court of Justice suspended the exploitation and mining license of Cantera Los Manantiales. Thais Eluwe, traditional chief from the Sere village of Sentani. As chairman of the Papua Presidium Council, which worked towards West Papua's independence from Indonesia, he emerged as a prominent leader in the Papuan Spring in the early 2000s. On November 10, 2001, Thais was abducted and strangled to death by Indonesian Army Special Forces. Prior to his death, he was charged with Makar for allegedly being involved in flag-raising ceremonies of West Papua's Morning Star flag. Hijam Irabot, revolutionary Meitei activist, artist, and politician from Manipur, northeast India. He wrote poems and plays that reflected the aspirations of the indigenous peoples for self-determination and their strong anti-colonial sentiments against the British occupation. Hijam was arrested and jailed in 1940 for being part of the people's demonstrations against British occupation. He was greatly influenced by the Indian communist leaders he met in jail. He was released in 1943 and organized among Meitei peasants and non-Meitei workers. In 1948, he founded the Communist Party of Manipur and continued waging armed struggle against the colonial government until his death in 1951.